Hello, I'm your superhero critic, and I'll stay super as long as you stay awesome. Sometimes it takes a small hero to make a big change. So, with that being said, let's take a look at Ant-Man. Starting in 1989, we watch a CGI'd young Hank Pym being pissed the company he works for is trying to steal the formula he's working on. He quits after punching a guy in the face, and we then meet our main hero Scott Lang getting released from jail, being picked up by comedy relief friend Lewis, who talks about robbing again, but he says he wants to go straight. We then watch him get and quickly lose a job at Baskin-Robbins. And that is why you go to McDonald's, because they'll hire anyone. Lewis introduces Scott to other friends and once again asks him to do the job he wants to do. Scott once again says no. Hank heads to his company and we meet the movie's villain, Darren Cross, who has found almost all of the information on Hank Pym particles. We learn he wants to make the suit into a war weapon, and we learn why Scott wants to go straight. Scott's daughter's stepfather basically shows us how much of a douche canoe he is and demands Scott to leave, but not before Scott gives a gift to his daughter.
For you.
Can I open it now?
Of course, sweetheart. It's your birthday.
Dear fucking God, that toy looks fucking creepy. It looks like the goddamn Monty Python bunny. So after Scott's ex kicks him out of the party, Darren runs into a client who disagrees with him, but our villain is villain for the sake of being a villain, and mucusizes him. Scott agrees to do the job, and after Lewis' story, we get a montage of the crew doing what they need to do the job. Scott makes his way into breaking in and easily makes his way through until he realizes how old the safe is, but quickly does what's necessary to blow the door off its hinges.
What are you doing?
I poured water in the locking mechanism and froze it with nitrogen. Ice expands, metal doesn't.
What are you doing now?
Waiting. Waiting. Nice.
Scott, finding nothing but a suit, takes the suit anyway, not realizing he's being watched. Darren continues his experiments and kills Mary's poor lamb, while Scott tries on the suit and learns the hard way not to push buttons. While Scott is learning what it's like to be small, from being flushed down a tub to being at a rave, almost being eaten by a mouse, and even dropping in on Carlisle from Black Scorpion, Hank's voice is constantly heard talking to him. Our hero decides the suit's not for him, but ends up arrested when he tries to return it. Hank poses as his lawyer and gives him a good guy speech and tells him he was set up from the beginning. So let me get this straight. You set me up to rob you to prove that I'm the one you want, but still disrespect me by calling me a thief and a lowlife. Fuck you! A group of ants brings Scott the suit back, allowing him to break out of jail, and he ends up riding an ant for the ride of his life until he passes out. When he comes to, he's at Hank's house, and Hank's daughter, Hope, does not believe that they need him. Hank explains the whole situation in the past to Scott and the audience, including Darren's obsession with the Pym particle formula. Hank finally tells Scott what he needs from him.
Breaking into places and stealing shit are done. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some shit.
Darren finally has a breakthrough in shrinking animals, and our two good guys allude to the rest of the MCU as they discuss plans and father-daughter argue over whether or not they need Scott. After a heartwarming speech, we get the training montage that lasts a good 3 minutes, which includes learning how to use a suit, learning different types of ants, fighting, and manipulating the ants themselves. Hope and Scott discuss her feelings on why her dad chose him and not her, and Scott finally gets a breakthrough on controlling the ants.
That's good.
Learn the real facts behind Hope's mother as Hank goes into a detailed speech on what really happened to her, sacrificing herself to stop a warhead. Hope forgives her dad as Scott finally gets the hang of his powers, and we watch as Scott does his first job, but it doesn't turn out the way they thought it would, as it turns out to be the Avengers' new headquarters, and we watch the Falcon and Ant-Man beating the crap out of each other, Ant-Man eventually coming out the winner.
It's really important to me that Cap never finds out about this.
I do believe the captain will still find out. Just a hunch. Hank is pissed off but learns Scott actually succeeded on his job. Darren visits Hank in his own home and they have a heart-to-heart of angry proportions. Darren calls Hope, telling her he's amping up security, causing Scott to call in his friends in order to help them sneak in, with everyone having a specific expertise. Ant-Man quickly gets in the building with Lewis constantly acting like an idiot.
Hey, what are you doing?
Boss man said to secure the area, so I'm securing it.
I'm the boss.
Oh.
Utilities 1.3.
With everyone in position and the ants frying the servers, Darren is set to reveal his yellow jacket suit to Hank, but Scott's crew almost get arrested before we get the speech from Darren of "I've known everything all along, and my mentor picked someone other than me, so I'm evil, blah blah blah." When Darren goes to kill Hank, it becomes a stalemate.
The one to do it.
Here we go.
Drop your...
So, let me get this straight. Our villain is a man who's obsessed with the hero, who, wants the hero's technology and ends up building a suit of his own. Where did we, see this before? Scott breaks free of his containment, starting a fight with Hank being shot in the crossfire. It's now a chase scene as Scott chases after Darren and having to dodge man after man, and Lewis actually does something to help. Hank reveals his keychain is not just a keychain.
Shots fired! And there's a tank.
Note to self, find keychain to make bigger. As Scott heads after Darren, our asshole villain shoots Anthony, pissing our hero off as the fight in the helicopter takes place. Scott reveals their plan was not just a heist, as the PIM building ceases to exist. Darren dons the yellow jacket suit and the fight begins with our characters bouncing from normal size to tiny size, including some funny moments like a lifesaver blowing up and even being paddled into a bug zapper. The cops finally catch up to Scott.
Paxton, you have to listen to me.
We find out Darren has gone straight to Cassie's mom's place, and the fight continues on a toy train set, giving us some of the funniest fight moments like this. And this. I do believe Thomas the Tank Engine is happy to see you. Scott shrinks in between the molecules of Darren's suit, showing us what happens when he goes atom-sized, and he floats in atom space using one of the enlargement pieces, it helps him back to normal size. The movie ends with Scott not remembering how he got back from the Matter Zone, and we see a random romance between Scott and Hope happening out of nowhere. Scott is finally allowed around his daughter, and Lewis has another job for Scott revolving around the Falcon.
And? What'd he say?
He said yes.
So that was Ant-Man. I personally enjoyed the fuck out of this movie. But May's just around the corner, so we're going to take a trip from Marvel to my favorite DC hero, Batman, with the 3rd annual Batmay. And what better way to start off Batmay 2016 than with Sub-Zero. I'm your superhero critic. I'll stay super as long as you stay also.